Welcome in to episode 015 of the Modern Dealer Podcast. My name is David Farmer with Entice, and with me, as always, is David Bertoncini. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Well, I just wanted to say this morning, I just want to make sure that it's going to be a really good episode. I was really excited. We're looking at the research of what you put together on this episode, and I'm just like, man, this is going to be good. So we'll jump into it here in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is going to be an extremely important episode, and I think that we're going to be able to provide a lot of great information where dealers can really get some good takeaways and bring them back to the dealership, explore what's happening right now in this extremely important area of their business, and take away some very good best practices. So very excited about this episode. But before we get going, there's a few things we need to get through. So first of all, coffee. Got a coffee check today. We got something a little different than the standard.
I think because I was drinking this Dunkin' Donuts coffee, it made me actually a little more edgy and a little nervous. So when the cameras first came on, first time I actually got a little bit of butterflies today. I was like, episode 15.
What is going on?
I kind of stuttered a little bit, but hey, it's all good. So I'm drinking actually Denny's Finest, which is Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. The extension of Denny's is Dunkin' Donuts, but I like how they've gone with just America runs on Dunkin'. So they've actually eliminated the word donuts and part of their marketing and their branding and such. But other than that, I mean, that's I guess I need to just jump into it. I ran out of coffee options this morning, so this is what I had to roll with. But
one of the things I like about what they're doing with that, the iconography, that's something that we're actually going to get into today a little bit in how people are utilizing ways to communicate with iconography and just using images. So kind of cool that that is the coffee of the day. Today I'm with my standard Starbucks. And one of the things I forgot to do is I forgot to bring my pumpkin spice coffee. I bought a box at Sam's Club. It's the second Sam's Club reference. How weird is that? But I bought some pumpkin spice to bring to the office here, and I forgot. So anyways, I'm on the pumpkin spice kick now that we're a week into October, which is amazing.
And of course, October, other than pumpkins and other than fall, also brings Major League Baseball. The only time that I really love baseball is in October. And of course, today, baseball inspired my
Sock of the day.
So, of course, the Tampa Bay Rays, and we are in the Tampa Bay area here, and I am going to the ALDS American League Division Series Game 4 tonight, which originally was scheduled for 4:15, got moved to 7:07. But excited about that because it's an awesome feeling in the city. I live right downtown St. Pete, so it's a great feeling in the city when everyone's just like excited that, hey, when your team's winning, they're winning, but when they're down, oh, it's down. But right now, we're winning.
Yeah. So I know it's been a few years since the Rays have done extremely well. Are they poised to do well this year? I don't follow sports at all, so I know nothing. But are they positioned to do well this year?
They're positioned. They've got all the right elements. A young team, so that is good. Second year for the coach. In addition to, it's been over 10 years since the Rays went to the World Series. I was in Game 2 of the World Series, the only game that they won in that series. But I was great to be a part of that. I went to the last ALDS in 2011. It was the last time they went to the American League Division Series. This is I don't want to say a repeat, but actually it should be really exciting. I'm looking forward to tonight's game. It should be pretty cool. So it's awesome. So
very, very cool stuff. All right, so just a couple other things to get rolling in. We talked 2 episodes ago, episode 13, as we started to talk about October and the things that are happening with fall, and I brought up the fact that I switched over to the new Apple iPhone and Apple OS 13. Today we also have the wide angle. I guess we should give it a name. Got the sock cam over there, so I guess this is the MDP wide angle cam, giving a full look of, we got Marty, we got Doc, we got Yoda, we got Alex Trebek. And you know what? I read some news. If anybody's a Jeopardy fan, I know me and my wife, we watch Jeopardy pretty religiously. So we're big fans. Alex Trebek right now is going through a bout of, I believe it's pancreatic cancer. having a tough time, and I read yesterday that he might be stepping down. It's at a point now where he's not able to fulfill. So that might be something that's coming. So that's sad news for Jeopardy fans as well. But in addition to Alex, we got Casual Thor or Fat Thor. What do you want to call him? Got a couple Toyota rings right here. So hopefully we're showing that off on our wide angle lens. But anyways, I digress. I brought up the Mac OS 13 or the iOS 13. Mac OS Catalina just got released yesterday, which is the newest version of the Mac OS. So I'm really excited. We actually had a couple technical difficulties getting things rolled out this morning because of the switch over to Catalina. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that if you didn't know, podcasts are now available in a separate application right in Mac OS.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sharing on my screen right now. I got the Modern Dealer podcast up. We got all of our podcasts. So if you're catching us on YouTube right now, we also take an audio version of this and put this on iTunes as well under the Modern Dealer podcast. And there's some other really cool things with Mac OS. They brought out an Apple TV app that can go on your MacBook as well. So it
nice.
basically syncs up with your Apple TV if you use that for digital content, which is such a rapidly changing area right now, is this connected TV, which we're doing some pretty cool things from a digital marketing standpoint, having access to video advertisements on connected TV. So very, very exciting stuff going on right now. So just a couple things I wanted to get off of my chest as we roll into this episode 015.
Wow. Before we get jumping right into it, just since we were talking about YouTube and we're talking about iTunes and such, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and turn on notifications.
Ding.
Don't forget those notifications. Follow us. Obviously, check us out on iTunes if you're listening to us. We do have a Facebook group, so you can get in there and interact. Ask some questions. Please ask questions so we can bring it up on the next show, and we'll put a poll out there.
Yeah.
Let's maybe do a poll of at the end of this episode, which online source would you feel would be best suited, or you feel that your customers are actually using the most? We'll put that poll out there. Which online source do you find customers come in their hand already into your dealership? So we'll put that in a poll and see what the winnings will be. So on that note, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Farmer.
All right. So today, if you hadn't noticed, what we're talking about on the Modern Dealer podcast, episode 015, and we don't have an official title yet. We're going to title it after the fact, but we're talking about omni-channel trade appraisals. And the reason I bring in omni-channel is because on last week's episode, we were talking about CarMax and the omni-channel and omni-channel retailing, looking at a traditional process versus a digital process. And the trade appraisal process we're talking about today is an omni-channel trade appraisal process. What's happening in your dealership showroom, customers walking straight into your dealership looking to get an appraisal, or what digital channels that are available for customers to get evaluation, whether it's an instant cash offer from KBB or AutoTrader, whether it's a true trade-in value from TrueCar, Carvana. There's so many places for customers to be able to get a trade appraisal, and that is what we're talking about today on the Modern Dealer podcast. So, as we normally do, I like to research some information, bring it in so we can communicate it to our audience here. Went into NADA and pulled out some data. This is 2018 data, so it's not that old. It's quite fresh. It's the latest compiled detail of this type of information, and I think it really starts to tell a story of the importance of online trade appraisal. So let's just get right into it. NADA, light vehicle dealerships. A couple pieces that I've pulled out to be able to share is comparing 2016, 2017, and 2018, so we can really identify a trend in certain areas. Things that I thought was important to share is, number one, the retail gross profit per new vehicle retailed has dropped systematically since 2016 through 2018, from 2066 to 1944. Pretty big swing. Retail net profit per vehicle retailed has gone from a negative $217 to a negative $570. That is an alarming number. Margin compression is something that we've been talking about for 20 years in automotive, and we've been talking about it for 20 years because it is a reality, and it is something that dealers really need to pay attention to find where are their opportunities to increase profit from their dealership. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, of how you can really capitalize on the profit opportunities. Retail gross profit per vehicle retailed from $24.15 to $23.54, systematic drop. And then the average number of used vehicles retailed from 703 to 720. So we've seen an increase in the number of used vehicle retails, and at the same point, we've seen a decrease in the average number of new vehicle retailed. So we understand what we can learn from this is used vehicles is an extremely important part of your business, which I know everybody already knows. But to look at the numbers in black and white, I think this really illustrates the importance of what dealers really need to be paying attention to as far as sourcing used vehicles. So that's kind of the story there. The next piece that I pulled out is dealership financial trends, looking at new vehicle department gross profit by year versus used vehicle department gross profit by year. And you can see that we did have an increase from 2011 to 2015, but you see a systematic drop from 2015 through 2018. And we've basically seen an increase from 2011 through 2018 from a used vehicle department gross by year. So your used vehicle department is more important to the dealership's bottom line than it has ever been. So this is extremely important information. Now, one of the things that I pulled out, David, is gross margins as a percentage of selling price by year from 2011 all the way through 2018. And this is a very stark illustration of the importance of margin compression, right? So we can see that this is basically a 45-degree angle going downward systematically since 2011 all the way through 2008, from about 4.5% to just over 2%. So this is not good.
No, it's actually, when I first looked at it, I thought it was, since we're in the fall here, I think of snow skiing and snowboarding, and this looks like a black diamond trail or something like that. And a black diamond trail being one of the ones with the biggest drops. I mean, 45-degree drop here from 2011 to 2018. Compressing the margins and me being a vendor to dealerships, these are things that I've always talked about as, it's with our internet pricing, it's always been a race to the bottom.
Yep.
Now, how do we turn this around? I mean, how do you actually get this from 45 down to a plateau and then maybe just try to turn the thing back up and try to grab, try to grab back some profitability? I mean, just try to get those margins. How do we increase the margins? And the increase in the margins, the way I foresee it is, in this episode that we're talking about, we're going to be focusing on used vehicles and trade-ins.
Yes.
This is going to be the turnaround point. Is okay, so we got the data. We see where everything's trending. Everything's trending down. Bottom line, this is going to shit. So how do we get out of the shit soup that we're in?
Yeah. Where is their opportunity as dealers? So, and I know that the dealers that are engaging with the Modern Dealer podcast are, the forward-thinking dealers that are aggressive. I know that I'm not sharing anything that is revolutionary. This is the information that this is information that you are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. But I do like the idea that we're able to take a moment, step back from the minutia of what it is like to be in automotive retail and really focus in on an area where we can, from a business standpoint, identify areas where our focus should go that's going to bring value to the dealership and bring profitability to the dealership. So we know that margin compression is an issue. We know that the amount of money that dealers are making on new vehicles is lower and lower and lower. So I believe the area of opportunity that dealerships have is to look at areas within their business where they have some control over, where they can increase profitability, and that is with used vehicles. Now, and also with the F&I department. Another thing that I thought was very interesting, and I know that we've talked about F&I products in the past when we were talking about the Amazon episode that was early in the Modern Dealer podcast. We spent a little bit of time talking about F&I when Sam Robbie, the general manager of Brandon Honda, was here. A couple graphs that I thought that was important was to look at aftermarket income by year from 2011 to 2018. That's probably more of a 30% increase, but we definitely see that dealerships are making more money in F&I. I think that the quality of products that dealerships are selling are getting better and better. Service contract penetration rates by year also has increased. And I know that we're about 17, 18 minutes into the first segment here. I want to take a step back and just tell you a story I did not tell you earlier. And I think it relates here because we were talking about the importance of service contracts and the value of service contracts. And in the Amazon episode, we were talking about the comparison of AppleCare to vehicle service contracts and the value. So I recently upgraded my watch, my Apple Watch, from I think I had a Series 1, maybe a Series 2, but I think it was a Series 1. And I've had that for like 5 years or whatever, right? And it's brand new. It's like no scratches, no dents, no dings. It's in really good shape. I decided because there's a huge transformation into Series 5, so I decided to get the Series 5 at the same time I got the new phone. And I opted not to get the AppleCare, and I usually don't because I take care of my stuff. I'm very careful with it. So I got it on Friday.
I see where this is going.
I got it on Friday, and you can see I'm not wearing it now. Got it on Friday, had it on the counter, so I'm only 3 feet off the ground, and I keep my charger in my drawer, so I take off at night, put on the charger, and I'm just kind of cleaning that up, and I bumped the watch, flipped over, landed straight on the face, shattered.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was distraught. So what I did is I didn't buy AppleCare, and I was trying to decide what I want to do. I was going to buy a new one. I was going to try to file a claim with AT&T, but they wanted like a $300 deductible on a $500 watch. It didn't make any sense. So ultimately, I ended up researching AppleCare. Is you can buy AppleCare at any point in the first 60 days after your original purchase, and the effective date goes back to the day that you bought the watch or the day that you bought the Apple product.
Gotcha.
So I bought it and then filed the claim, which is completely legitimate.
Right.
So I was able to get a new watch sent to me for $69.
Nice.
The AppleCare was $79, and the only thing I have to send back is just the watch itself. So I get to keep the band, so there's some value there. I get the extra charger, so there's some value there. So anyways, the value of the $79 to me now is extremely important on a $500 investment. So, I mean, comparison, you're looking at 20% of the overall cost, where, you know, the value in a vehicle service contract is much greater for a lot less of a cost.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting and a funny story to share.
But you got one computer on your wrist, and a vehicle's got several computers and like 26,000 moving parts.
Yeah.
So I would tell a customer, I'm like, did you get Apple Care? You got Apple Care on that, you know, $500 device or your $1,500 phone. Would it make sense to get it on this $50,000 machine that's, you know, roaming the streets?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what we're going to do, David, I know that we're going to come back and we're going to get into this article from Automotive News, where dealers are turning to meet used car demand. So we'll go ahead and take a quick break. One, two, and welcome back into the second and last segment of the Modern Dealer Podcast, episode 015. We're going to jump right back into it. Automotive News. This is an article that's not very fresh. It's April 22nd, 2019. It is relevant, and that's why I pulled it out. So this article is named "Dealers Turn to Craigslist to Meet Used Car Demand," and I think it really illustrates a couple of key pieces that we wanted to share with this episode. And the first thing is they're talking to a dealer, I think it is a Hyundai dealer in Slidell, Louisiana, and using this to kind of illustrate how important it is and how difficult it is for sourcing used cars and how the model has really changed. So in this article, he says, last week we drove 90 miles to go buy a truck that we saw on an ad in Craigslist. Like many dealers hungry for inventory, Hyundai of Slidell advertises that they will buy cars and trucks from customers even if they are not shopping for a replacement. And then he said, every dealer on the strip has the exact same sign. So that's an extremely important differentiation of how how dealers can source used vehicle inventory and how that compares to other disruptors in the space.
So, because dealers turn to Craigslist, so I'll give you a couple of examples, personal examples. Number one, my little sister-in-law, the first week she started in the car business, no customers, no sales. Well, she's got plenty of sales experience, but not automotive sales experience. But I told her, I said, you need to stir up some business because you're starting in a retirement, seasonal town in Florida in the middle of summer, and there's no traffic coming through the door. So she turned to Craigslist and started calling on customers to bring their vehicles in. She wound up turning 5 deals out of Craigslist, just calling the local Craigslist. When she ran out of customers to call locally, I said, all right, go out 100 miles now. Start calling customers, you know, in Tampa, which was practically 100 miles away from Punta Gorda, and she started calling customers, drawing them all over the place. Second story is I have our 4Runner out there on Craigslist because it's so funny. Of all the platforms to sell a vehicle, Craigslist has always been the most successful for me. So I've helped neighbors sell cars on Craigslist. And the funny thing is, of all the dealers to call me first, because there's a couple dealers that'll call me based upon the Craigslist posting, but AutoNation actually has been kind of the first, one of the first to step up. Usually within the first 2 days of posting, they'll send a text message. They're going through text, and they'll have somebody from the dealership text message me, and also email too, to try to buy vehicles off the street. So even the big boys are understanding the importance of buying used vehicles from customers off the streets, other than just advertising. You know, they've got an advertising campaign. But I think just the personalization of like sending me a text and like, hey, you know, my name's such and such here at AutoNation. I'm interested in your 2019 Toyota 4Runner.
Fantastic. And I think what's interesting about that is that story illustrates how aggressively companies are going after the sourcing of used vehicles. So the sourcing of used vehicles, the right type of used vehicles, is more difficult. This article says that the later model, lightly used inventory is a little bit easier to get. Vehicles that are coming off of lease, they're able to bring those vehicles into used inventory, go through the certification process. Where it gets more difficult is really where the highest demand is, and that is in that vehicles that's 4 to 6 years old. Some of that demand is really coming from the Gen Y and Gen Z buyers as they're coming into the market. One quote was that you're starting to see the incomes of that demographic increasing, and franchise dealers, that demographic is buying 63% used. So as Gen Y, Gen Z are having their incomes rise, they're looking at purchasing vehicles. They're looking at purchasing vehicles that is in that 4 to 6 year old range, which that demographic is buying 63% used. So it's definitely illustrating the point that the need for the right used vehicles in inventory is great, but it also gives you the greatest opportunity as long as you have a strategy to bring those those vehicles into the dealership. So we talked about last episode, was it last week? It might have been the week before. I apologize. But that was also referenced in this article that Lithia has invested $54 million in the used car retailer Shift. And the reason that it did is Shift's broad exposure to the used car market and the way that they're able to leverage that to potentially help Lithia to purchase more used vehicles, which really moves on to how important is used vehicles from for a dealership as far as a percentage of the business as a whole. According to this article, Automotive News, 65% of dealership business relies on trade-ins. 43% of dealers' inventories on average come from trade-ins on new vehicles. 23% come from trade-ins on used vehicles, making up 65%. Is that going to be... So what's happening now in the marketplace is that it is harder for dealers to take vehicles in on trade. It's extremely important, but it's harder. Why is it harder? Well, companies like Carvana and CarMax have really started to disrupt the purchase model for online, online purchases. Just as you mentioned, where you might put a vehicle in Craigslist, you have AutoNation reaching out to you trying to buy that vehicle. CarMax, Carvana, I would say half or more of their advertising budget today is dedicated to attracting used vehicle sellers versus actual used vehicle buyers, which is important, right?
Well, they in our Carvana episode, currently their inventory mix is almost 50% trade-ins that they have taken versus, when they first came into the market, they had to buy everything at the block because nobody knew who they were. But now they've started to gain trust, they're starting to gain momentum, and they're trading at half of what they're appraising practically. So that's pretty strong. That's some strong numbers right there, because obviously we know buying off the street is better than buying at the block.
Yeah. So, absolutely, I believe that what you're saying is true. And if I was a dealer right now, I would be looking at ways that I can compete with Carvana, with CarMax, with AutoNation, with other online and offline retailers to attract more trade-ins to my dealership and attract more purchases to my dealership. This kind of brings up a point that Sam Robbie made when he was here a few weeks back. He's saying that they're going to try to retail every vehicle that they take in. They're not going to retail every one that they do, but the only reason that they would get rid of a vehicle is if it wouldn't be a safe vehicle to sell. So it does illustrate how important used vehicles as a whole is, whether it's a vehicle that's 200,000 miles, 100,000 miles, or 10,000 miles. I think another thing that was mentioned in the article in that automotive news is that most dealerships in the past used to not sell a vehicle that had over 100,000 miles. And if they did, it was in a rare occasion. And they would never think about selling a vehicle that is 200,000 miles. But today, the market has changed. If you're not making any money on new vehicles, you're making most of your money on used vehicles, you're having a difficult time buying used vehicles, you're going to sell anything and everything that you can. And your goal should be to take in and purchase any vehicle that you possibly can.
It's funny is CarMax rule, and I think it has changed recently. It used to be they wouldn't buy a vehicle over 10 years old or over 150,000 miles. My understanding, and I haven't gone through the process, but with an older vehicle, I think from what I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think they will purchase a vehicle over 150,000 miles that is over 10 years old because it's getting more and more difficult to buy inventory. Plus, the manufacturers have stepped up their game. They are building better quality vehicles. It has gone up in the past decade, so it's okay to buy 150,000 mile vehicle that most people would shy away from. I still do have my picks that I wouldn't buy. With 100 miles on them.
This is true. This is true. All right, so what I wanted to do is do the research for you on what the process is like for your customers as they are thinking about selling their vehicle. So I took my personal vehicle and went through the appraisal process at a few different online sources and one offline source, which is CarMax. So yesterday, I took my car, went over to CarMax, and went through the appraisal process. I put a 4-minute video together kind of detailing the process. I'll share that right here. We'll see how that works. And so you can click and you can watch that. Me going through the process, taking my personal vehicle to CarMax, and how that appraisal process went. I also, after I got back to the office, I went through each of Carvana, AutoTrader, and TrueCar, and I got my vehicle appraised online. And I wanted to be able to share that experience with you. So I also created a special edition online trade appraisal video, which I'll also link up right here. And you'll be able to see that. It's 29 minutes. That's me going through every step of the appraisal process for Carvana, for AutoTrader, and TrueCar. And this would give you the opportunity to really understand how your process at the dealership compares to Carvana, AutoTrader, and TrueCar, and to really find out are they competitive to you, and are you putting your best foot forward in your online appraisal process and your willingness to purchase vehicles off the street. And I think you really need to ask the question is, are you advertising that you're going to buy vehicles from customers, whether they buy a vehicle or not? And if you are, how are you positioning that within with your advertising? So I would recommend that you take a few minutes, watch both of these videos. I think you'd gain a lot of great information in what your customers are doing.
So no, it's funny is that. Customers have all these different places they can sell their vehicles, but as soon as we'll get to the results of this, but it's really eye-opening all the choices customers have now of where to sell their cars at online. And Carvana's latest campaign is they have a for sale by owner sign that they're shredding, and it's like, the new way to sell your car.
Yep.
Now they've been pitching for the last 2 years a new way to buy a car. Now they're hitting heavy on television, a new way to sell your car, and of course it's popping up everywhere you find. One interesting point you did make is how are you relaying your message that you'll buy a car off the street without them having to buy a car from you? AutoNation, you had sent me an email several months ago, and it was about AutoNation saying their campaign was like, hey, you will buy your car, you don't have to buy ours.
Yep.
But it was an email campaign, which we know the open rate on an email is going to be very slim to none, especially if somebody sees it's just a marketing email. So really that message hasn't really resonated with the consumer much. Plus, unless they have their vehicle on Craigslist, then they're aggressively being charged after from one local AutoNation dealer. But if they're not in your market, if AutoNation's not in your market, then hey, you've got a good opportunity there. Except Carvana is peeking over your shoulder.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, a very, very good point. I think it really needs to be a unique selling proposition. It needs to be a selling proposition for dealerships. So if you're not advertising that you will buy cars, whether a customer buys a vehicle from you or not, I would highly recommend that is something that you would want to incorporate it into your advertising and marketing message. I also think that is something that resonates extremely well in social media marketing, is being able to provide a process that's easy, that's fast, that's simple, that selling a vehicle to your dealership would be better than selling to a CarMax or a Carvana. And I think that you being a local business and in leveraging the fact that it is a local business, I think that's something that you can use again to attract more buyers.
Like you said, David, a local business, and some people are still want to give you your dealership business because they're like, hey, I've done service there at this dealership. Can they pay more than the Carvana or the CarMax? Because I feel I have a connection to that store. This is where I bought it. This is where I serviced it. Yeah. But they're not. Are you putting yourself in a position to say, hey, we're going to buy your car. You don't have to, trade or anything like that because, you may be moving overseas or you may be, military. We got a big military base close to us here in Tampa, MacDill Air Force Base. And you got a lot of military guys, which are like, hey, I'm going to duty assignments. My next duty station is in Germany. Yep. So this car, I'm selling it and there is no trade-in for me. So this is just a straight sale. When I was in the military, I did that 3 or 4 times when I was bought a Tacoma, I had a Lincoln Town Car at one time. Nice. It was funny. All my friends loved to ride in it. They thought it was like a chauffeur.
Low rider.
It was hilarious. It does not match me at all. But I was 19 years old. It was the first car I financed. Yeah. So in the military, but it resonates true that if you're a dealer, how do you would feel more comfortable, excuse me, as a consumer, you feel more comfortable being able to sell your vehicle back to the dealer without having to trade it in. But then you're bombarded by, CarMax and Carvana saying, we'll buy your vehicle, you don't have to buy it from us. So.
And if you're not advertising that as a dealer, do customers really know that you're willing to buy that vehicle?
You got this banner that you put over your, like, hey, hang this banner right here, and everybody's going to driving down the street's going to see it. No, nobody's going to see it. I mean, the people that pull in might see it, and half of them ignore it. They don't even look at it unless they're thinking about selling their car.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely very important to incorporate it into your selling proposition. So I'm sharing right now on the slideshow CarMax's homepage. They've recently made some changes to their marketing where they are including test drives delivered as a unique selling proposition for them as a marketing message. I actually saw one of these vehicles on the road a few weeks ago. I think I included it in a couple of our past episodes. So they are bringing the in-store experience mobily to you. And you can see right there that right in their headline, it is shop, sell, finance, and more. So they're promoting that they purchase vehicles. So during my experience, I went to CarMax. I'll share that with you as well. I'm not going to go into the details of the actual experience because I have a whole nother video there, and I don't want to just have a duplication there. So, but I went to CarMax. I also went to AutoTrader. Went through the AutoTrader process. Had a great online experience. I also went to TrueCar to get a value. And just real quick, on the AutoTrader page, you can see they have search cars for sale as their top header, but right on their first page, above the fold, it says "Sell my car." So you're able to sell your vehicle to them as well, and that's what they're doing right on their homepage. And TrueCar is doing the exact same thing: shop new, shop used, get a value on your current vehicle. So they've incorporated this. TrueCar also has TV advertisements, just like Carvana has TV advertisements, advertising the fact that they buy used vehicles, and they do it simple and audiomatically. They have some really cool
audiomatically. You know, the only
different ways.
The only reason why I know that I see these TV commercials is because when I'm at the gym, I'm looking over the shoulder of somebody that's actually watching TV on their treadmill. I'm like kind of glancing over at theirs. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a Carvana commercial when I'm watching something myself on YouTube, and I might just glance over and catch that. But just my point being, TV is dying.
Yeah, true. And that's a good point we should bring up on another episode. Alternatively, Carvana, the new way to buy a car, and then ultimately they have on their front page as well, they can search cars, you can sell or trade a vehicle as well, and that's right up in their header as well. So the Carvana experience, they're definitely going after purchasing vehicles online. I also just did a quick, so I do want to just share real quick the results. So the results for the results for the CarMax appraisal was $27,000 for my personal vehicle, which is a 2018 Audi A6, 4,200 miles. So they were 27 at CarMax, a good experience. Carvana led the pack at 28,169.
Wow.
Which, so you're looking at $1,200 more than what this appraisal was. TrueCar was 26.7, about the same. Instant cash offer was the lowest at 25,515. So I mean, you're looking at almost a $3,000 swing between what Carvana is willing to pay versus what instant cash offer is. Now, here's the challenge. Here's the rub, and then I'll get your thought on it. So the rub here is that if your dealership is relying upon a third party to handle your online buying experience, I think the question becomes is, are they doing it in a way that is going to put you in the best position to be able to buy that car? This example shows that they are not. And if I went to a dealership's website and I saw instant cash offer from AutoTrader as the appraisal process, they were the lowest out of the four that I did, substantially so. And so if I was in the market for selling my vehicle, maybe not really understanding the value of trading the vehicle in and getting that tax advantage, but just straight up from a value standpoint, I went to your website, it says 25. I went to Carvana's website, it said 28. Where am I going?
And it's funny is, to a consumer, you did all this research. Now, consumers are going to maybe just hit one or two. They're not going to hit all four of these sites. I mean, because a lot of people just don't have that much time to hit all four sites and to think that it's going to go as fast as it went for you. You're able to do it all within a half an hour to hit four sites and get four different values for your vehicle. But to a consumer, they're going to look at, they may hit your instant cash offer on your website. Then they're like, well, I'm hearing so much about CarMax or Carvana. One of those two are going to win in the advertising, platform there, and they're going to try one of those two. They'll try, your website, then they'll try one of those other ones just to shop you and to keep you in check, and they'll see that it's a $2,000 to $3,000 difference in price. Customers will be like, you know what? I'm just going to sell it to CarMax. But you and I know in the state of Florida, there's a tax advantage by trading the vehicle. May not be the same in the state of Washington or in Texas, but in Florida, there is a tax advantage for the customer to trade their vehicle to you that they are not aware of every time that, hey, I may be showing a $2,000 more difference, but if they had traded it to you, it would actually break out even. That goes to a whole nother conversation, but more of an awareness thing. But to the customer, they're just going to take the path of least resistance. They're going to be like, oh, well, I'm getting $2,000 more here. I'll just sell it there and buy the car back at the local dealership.
Yep, absolutely. So I believe that, so this really kind of brings up an opportunity to look at selling the vehicle through different variations of online platforms. One piece of information I did want to share is, well, what is this car worth? So adjusted MMR, 28.5. So actually the adjusted MMR is higher than the highest value that I got at Carvana at 28.1. Instant cash offer, 25.5. Adjusted MMR, 28.5. Now, if I was a Mercedes-Benz dealership, an Audi dealership, if I was a BMW dealership, a Lexus dealership, even any other dealership, I would love to have this car in inventory, right? And I'd be willing to pay adjusted MMR or higher to get that vehicle in stock. So I think really you have to make the consideration, how are you going to position yourself to create some differentiation in the marketplace? I would suggest that you move away from any type of automated response and get somebody involved at the dealership. If you have somebody on your dealership's website that is interested in some type of express cash offer for your vehicle, an instant cash offer, that you should be driving that. If it's that important for you to get used vehicles, if it's that important for you to get that opportunity to get that face-to-face with a customer to ultimately buy a vehicle and or trade the vehicle in when the customer gets to the dealership showroom, you should be driving that. You shouldn't be outsourcing that to AI or any other type of technology. So I do want to, I'm going to make this into kind of a little commercial for the way that I recommend doing it with Entice is through our trade maker technology. So I say instant cash offer may not be the best bet for you. It is an automated process, but I love the KBB brand. We work with Kelley Blue Book. I'm going to go over to one of our dealerships that we do business with, which is Naples Dodge. And you can see right on their homepage that we have an express cash offer. We'll buy your car even if you don't buy ours. So we're positioning for this dealership, search new, search used, schedule service, and express cash offer as a unique selling proposition. I click the express cash offer and it moves right into a process that explains to the customer that you're going to be able to sell your vehicle within a few simple steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, cash out, trade in. A lot of great verbiage around this, and we include the trade maker tool to allow a customer to get a value right on the page. Why is that important, and why am I burning up some MDP time on trade maker? Because I just want to share with you is you put yourself in control of the process. You're going to be able to position yourself better to be able to get that value, to get that opportunity versus an automated response. You're going to be able to compete better with somebody like a Carvana by utilizing a different strategy. So I'm sharing my screen right now, which is Sun Toyota, which is also utilizing our trade maker tool for their instant cash offer process. And you can see that we're leveraging the KBB brand. We're showing that there's a valuation between 26 and 27.9. So we're looking at $28,000 from this dealership versus if I went to another dealership that has outsourced it to some AI, you're going to find that that's going to be $25,500. So that's a $3,000 swing. So if I'm a customer and I'm looking at who do I want to do business with, if I do it through Carvana, it's going to be $28,000. If I do it through this dealership, I'm going to get $28,000, or if I do it from dealership X, it's going to be $25,000. Where am I going? So this puts you in the control to be able to do it. Also, not only the way that we position it with this is we're giving the value between fair and excellent with the KBB value. The way that we're positioning is we're going to give you the book value up front, and within a matter of minutes, we're going to give you the express cash offer. So this lead would go into somebody at the dealership, ideally directly to a used car manager. They're going to understand the importance of that. They're going to get that lead notification on their phone. They're going to see what vehicle it is. It's something that they're interested in. They're going to make sure they call that customer right away or send that customer an email saying, hey, this is a car that we want. We'd be willing to pay $28,500, $29,500, right?
Right.
You could look, I mean, how long does it take to look up a MMR on the MMR app?
Seconds.
Right.
I mean, copy and paste the VIN. I mean, it's
Boom,
simple
boom,
as that.
right?
You just put in a vehicle grade, your location, how many miles. I mean, there's only like 4 fields to fill in once because it VIN populated. I mean, it's pretty simple. But, you know, to have that much that ease of use with you know the TradeMaker tool, especially for a customer, which is like going to give you just a few chances to win their business, and they see that. I mean, of course, you know, the trade value is going to be something important to the customer, and of course, you know, if they got your car and it got to the dealership, and you know, say for example, it was smoked in or it had a pet odor, because they asked you those questions when I watched your video. They asked you those questions: did you smoke in it? Did it have any accidents? Did you do any modifications? You know, did you put snow tires? You know, in Florida on the vehicle, right? You know, that's your opportunity to kind of renegotiate the whole thing, but. No, it's completely eye-opening. And I would say, you know, as I mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, like, hey, let's do a poll and find out what is your customer walking in with right now to your dealership. Do they have a CarMax appraisal in hand, or do they have on their phone what Carvana is willing to pay for their vehicle? So hit us up. We'll put a poll out there of what your customer's coming in with. Let us know, what do you see walking into your store daily?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get this wrapped up today. I think this was a really good episode. I think we were able to get through most of the information. I would highly recommend just take a few minutes and look at our 2 other companion episodes to this, which is my experience at CarMax and going through the CarMax, Carvana, Instant Cash Offer, and TrueCar experience. And then most importantly, what I would recommend is you go through your process at the dealership. Find out, what are your customers going through? When's the last time you went to your website and appraised a vehicle
Your
online?
own vehicle.
Your own vehicle. Go through the process. And then, you know, I would also highly recommend is if you're not leveraging We'll Buy Your Car, even if you don't buy ours, on your homepage, do that. Engage with customers so you can be in competition with, you know, where you have, you know, some challenges right now, which is CarMax, which is Carvana, selling 100,000 vehicles last year, going to be selling more this year. We also found out in this episode, David, that used car and F&I is where your dealership is looking for bottom line profits. So that really is where your focus needs to be, and you need to make sure that you're getting the right vehicles in inventory. It's a new ball game today. I think this is extremely timely, important message. So I appreciate everybody's time on the Modern Dealer Podcast. I think we went a little bit long today, but I think that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. What do you got?
Hey, just make sure you've got the proper tools out there, and you're sending the message. Let your customers know that you do buy cars, and you know, get that delivered to them in a way that they can easily digest it and get the best value and the best connection to your dealership.
That's a wrap.